One face 2 seconds. Face near 4 seconds. Face near top 8 seconds. Speech off.
Yep.
Fast as far as we go. People is hurting. And when we get out of here, it'll be alright.
But it just kind of showed me how dark it really is out here.
That's Jeff Goins again at the Capulan Volcano National Monument in northeast New Mexico. You make a really interesting observation towards the end of your book, The Darkness Manifesto. You write about how, in a sense, when we oftentimes think about silence, we think about it only as defined by the absence of sound, and that perhaps we reflexively do something similar when we are thinking about darkness, that we define it just very simply as the absence of light. But it sounds like you're calling for a completely different conception, a completely different definition of darkness, not as defined by the absence of something, but rather an experience, an environment that is a complete whole within itself.
Yes. It would be interesting to look at it from the other way. It's I don't have the definition because, well, it's there already. It's the absence of light. But when you think about it, it's you can almost, if you're out in such a dark place as was described here earlier, you can almost feel the darkness. It surrounds you. It's like having a blanket over your head or something. So the darkness is out there. And also, there are so many negative words connected to darkness. So it's hard to say something positive about it. When we have the light is always the good side, the darkness is always the bad side. That's why I started to think about how can we redefine darkness in a way. I don't think I had the definition, but it was interesting to.
That was so interesting because I know it was, to me, silence is dark.
To think of darkness perhaps in this way, that when we lose it, then we're losing the magic also that comes with the coming of the light, right? You say life's renewal every morning and every spring loses a little bit of its magic. Just a few seconds for a last thought there. You are.
I think that everybody I've talked to really likes darkness, even though it's a bit scary, but that's also what makes it interesting and gives us a feeling of awe underneath the stars. So just go out there and experience the darkness.
Well, Yuan Eklov's book is called The Darkness Manifesto, on light pollution, night ecology, and the ancient rhythms that sustain life. Thank you so much for joining us today, Yuan.
Thank you.
I'm Meghna Chakrabarty. This is On Point.
Is a production of WBUR Boston and is distributed by APM, American Public Media.
Support for On Point comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston, from Prompt, with a mission to help students get into their top choice colleges. Prompt's one-on-one application and essay coaching is designed to help students write compelling college essays. More at myprompt.com/NPR. And the Music Emporium, guitar sellers for more than 50 years, celebrating the enduring presence of music made on the front porch and center stage. You can learn more at themusicemporium.com.
What if you could taste the world's electric fields, hear vibrations in a leaf, or see magnetic currents guiding you home? I'm Meghna Chakrabarty. Join me as science writer Ed Yong helps us perceive the world the the way animals do, through new eyes, ears, antenna, and more. I'm Megna Chakrabarty. That's on the next On Point.
That's interesting.
A very good afternoon, and thanks for listening to On Point. I'm Mike Szymanski, and this is 90.7 WFAE, and you can stream us anytime at WFAE.org.
What was that?
Coming up next at 3 o'clock is NewsHour from the BBC.
A group of researchers recently claimed that a new material could lead to a scientific breakthrough in superconducting. Social media was buzzing with the news, but other academics were skeptical.
We tried to get electric current through it. We just couldn't.
The scientific reality of LK99 on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Listen this afternoon starting at 4 on WFAE. And this is 90.7 WFAE Charlotte, 90.3 WFAG Hickory, and WFAE.org, Charlotte's NPR news source.
Welcome to NewsHour from the BBC World Service. I'm Rebecca Kesby. Today, Britain's most prolific serial child killer is told she'll spend the rest of her life behind bars. The judge said Lucy Letby, who's a paediatric nurse, showed cruelty and calculation that was truly horrific.
During the course of this trial, you have coldly denied any responsibility. You have no remorse. There are no mitigating factors.
Also, Saudi Arabia is accused of deliberately killing and injuring hundreds of migrants on the border. We'll have a special report. We'll find out more about the anti-corruption candidate swept to power in Guatemala and the political row that's erupted in Spain over inappropriate celebrations at the Women's World Cup final.
There was no consent. She didn't consent to being kissed, and it's a boss kissing an employee. And not just that, but publicly.
First, the news.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Weather warnings remain in force for millions of people in the southwest of the United States after the region was hit by its first tropical storm in decades. Storm Hilary brought record-breaking rainfall to California. More than 8 centimeters fell across Palm Springs on Sunday, beating a record set more than 90 years ago. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, gave this update.
Reports thus far indicate that as of right now, there have not been any deaths or significant risk of injury. The city mobilized, including opening the most emergency temporary shelters for unhoused Angelenos since 2020. Sometimes damage can occur in the hours and days after a storm hits, so Angelenos should continue to stay vigilant.
The people of Ecuador have voted to end oil drilling in a protected area of the Amazon. It means the state-owned oil company will have to stop its operations in a block of Yasuní National Park. Here's Katie Watson.
Back in May, Ecuador's highest court authorised the vote, and on Sunday, 59% of people said they wanted to bring an end to exploring for oil in one of the most biodiverse places in the world. Yasuní is home to several of the world's last uncontacted indigenous populations, and the area in question, known as Block 43, is a part of the rainforest that has 12% of the nearly 500,000 barrels of oil produced by Ecuador every day.
The Zimbabwean opposition leader Nelson Chamisa has insisted that any victory by the ruling ZANU-PF party in this week's general election would be a false one. He told the BBC that such a result would not reflect the will of the people. Shinganyoka reports from Harare.
Campaigning will come to an end at midnight today in what has been a tense pre-election period. The Zimbabwe opposition leader told the BBC that his country is ready for change ahead of Wednesday's elections. Mr. Chamisa, who leads the Citizens Coalition for Change, said the grip on power by the ruling ZANU-PF since 1980 was coming to an end. The country has been mired in economic problems for decades. Zimbabwe's President Emerson Mnangagwa, who took over in a military coup before winning disputed elections in 2018, has become increasingly repressive, according to human rights groups. He rejected accusations of trying to fix the outcome.
The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has condemned the refusal of a nurse who murdered 7 newborn babies in her care. to attend her sentencing in court is cowardly. Lucy Letby has been told she'll spend the rest of her life in jail. But Sunak repeated that the government was looking into changing the law so that convicted offenders could be compelled to attend court when they were sentenced. You're listening to the World News from the BBC in London.
This is WFAE News. I'm Kenneth Lee. Investigators in Concord are trying to figure out what started a fire at a city-owned public housing duplex over the weekend that claimed the lives of 3 children. In a press release, the city says firefighters responded to Lincoln Street Southwest just after 1 a.m. Sunday to find heavy fire in one of the units. Despite CPR, an 11-year-old girl and 15-year-old boy died at the scene. A third sibling, a 16-year-old girl, was taken to the hospital with critical injuries but died last night. City officials say the parents of the children were not at home at the time of the fire. The Concord Fire Department is working with the Office of the State Fire Marshal and the Concord Police Department on the investigation. And Habitat for Humanity of Gaston County will have a new leader when Executive Director Kay Penninger resigns after 4 years with the nonprofit organization this week. Penninger will depart from her role on August 25th as she will relocate to Georgia to be closer with her family. Lisa Quisenberry will take the interim position starting on September 5th, according to a statement from the group. Quisenberry is the founding executive director of Hands on Charlotte and is a